Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this very new episode of your program, Out of the Box. Cogito ergo sum. Je pense donc je suis. I think, therefore I am, were the words of the great philosopher René Descartes. René Descartes was a great French philosopher living in the 16th and 17th century. He was very famous for his saying and for his doubt, the Cartesian doubt. There is no absolute truth. Nothing is higher than being tested. Everything is open to being tested. You should be skeptic about things. You should judge things. And our true existence is through our mind and not through our five senses. What he talked about had a very profound effect on enlightenment, on scientific and industrial revolutions that came afterwards. His effect was not limited to France or to Europe, but spread all around the world, even reaching the Middle East. So, what were the real motivation behind his ideas? How did he think of the world, the physical and the metaphysical one as well? To delve deeper into the crypts of René Descartes, I'm really delighted tonight to be accompanied by my usual and very special guest, Ahmad Bersoum, the independent writer and thinker. Ahmad Bersoum, hello and welcome to the program.
Hello, Mohammed, and thank you again, as usual, for your kind invitation to your amazing program, Out of the Box, and the amazing topics you choose, and the great philosophers that we will spend some time with.
It's always a pleasure to have you time and again.
Thank you, and I'm always happy to meet all your audience and all your followers and viewers because they inspire us to give them more knowledge and help us to communicate together on better scale, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure that the feeling is mutual. Now, to start talking about René Descartes here, just a very simple question to start with. Do you think that today, in the 21st century, René Descartes is still of the same importance that he had long ago, since the 17th century onwards?
That's very interesting, Muhammad, because to my surprise, I was thinking about this question before we met today. On my way home from work, I was thinking that when we meet, this is something that we should discuss. And I'm happy that you started with this question because I have my own view on it, and then we can maybe elaborate together more on the subject.
Absolutely.
So I believe, of course, that although René Descartes was one of the greatest philosophers, or the father of modern philosophy and the founder of modern philosophy, however, most of his thoughts, beliefs, and ideas I didn't say all, were lacking knowledge and science as we know it today.
Mm-hmm.
He, yes, established the way of modern thinking of philosophy and how we can elaborate to higher levels of thinking, mental versus physical, and physical versus metaphysical. It's a huge world of philosophy that he established. But in many parts of it, he was lacking science that we know today. For example, I'm just giving, Descartes believed that a human being can exist only because of the mind. So if he has no face, he has no senses, still he exists. And of course, as we know it now, how can you exist without expressing your thoughts and ideas through talking, through viewing, through interacting with voice and even body language and even sign language? So that's something that he insisted on in many of his thoughts, especially in his method of philosophy, that we don't need our physical being to exist. And that's something I would personally, again, as I said, my opinion, I would disagree with. So based on that era that he started talking about his expressing his theories and ideas in philosophy, maybe that was a little bit suitable at that time. Because don't forget that also during the 16th and 17th century, the mythology and the fiction and the paranormal symbols or signs were believed in that times. So people can accept his assumptions based on their belief as well. So that's my take on it. And I would like you to tell me, how do you think about that?
Well, the way I see it is that, like maybe he was thinking ahead of his time, because if you think today of, for instance, a cyborg, which is still something that might even come into the future. So the cyborg is basically, it has, you just insert a human mind, and then all the other parts of the body are artificial. So you can have a synthetic leg, hand, nose, mouth, everything. As long as my brain is there, it's still me. So my personality and everything is there, and because maybe again, we know today that it's not the eye that sees, but it's the brain, and it's the brain that smells, tastes, everything. These are just vehicles and tools to transfer the message or the electric pulses to the brain, and then the brain would compute these and process it to feel for the five different senses. So maybe I see it this way. Maybe I see that as long as your brain is active, you are here. But if your brain is gone and all your other senses are intact,
Yes.
you're not here. You're
Of
not
course,
here.
no, 100%. That's agreed on. But I would like to put it in a different way as well, based on what your assumption. It's just for the sake of argument, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If I am in love with someone, we need to express our love or emotions to the people we love with many things, with words, with our eyes, and also with touches. So definitely, when I hold my little baby in my hands like this, and have tap on his head or shoulder or her head or shoulder, then they feel our love and care. So the sense and movement, this is physical. And even if I am a cyborg, I have to do it physically as well. So cyborg still does not annihilate my idea, because you need this container to translate my mind and feelings towards actions.
And
Maybe this is my perception based on
something that can really that really concurs and goes really hand in hand with what you just said here is the famous film by Robin Williams, Bicentennial Man.
Yes.
In the film Bicentennial Man, Robin Williams has a positronic brain, so it's not a natural brain, but he has all the other human senses, and because he has all the other human senses, he becomes human. So he has artificial intelligence, and he can think for himself. He can read, he can explore, he has an opinion in everything, but he is, really missing out on humanity because he doesn't have the five senses and also the basic instincts, like hunger, like sex, and so on. So he works with a scientist, and this scientist sort of connects his positronic brain to everything. So he becomes human, but at the very end, he had to insert blood and plasma in his body, and then when this happened, he started to age and die, because when he met the World Congress, according to the film, he was waiting for a decree by the World Congress, and to declare him as a human being or not. They told him, although you have everything human, but still your brain is positronic, which means you are eternal. And because you are eternal, you cannot be human.
Yes.
You cannot, because humans have a time to die. You cannot be living forever. So I totally see what you're saying, and it's not only me. This is a very hot argument. Actually, it's a
Yes,
very
but
very hot argument that I believe there are. I think at least that there are millions out there who think your way or my way. It's a very controversial.
This is a very, very broad idea, and we can spend long time talking about it, and still we will not reach a conclusion together. But thank you for reminding me of the movie, because the movie that you brought up actually reflects exactly what we're discussing now.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, do we need the mind, the human mind and human senses to have a human being to exist, or one of them only? But thank you for this addition that you mentioned.
It's always a pleasure to and what we're doing right now actually shows how right this man was.
Yeah.
Because like this sort of mental fencing, if you like, that happens. Yeah,
so we agree that we need both.
Absolutely.
He explained the human being with two things, as two parts, or two origins: the physical and the non-physical. And that's exactly Descartes' ideas. So the physical part, of course, as we agreed, are the senses, and the non-physical is the mind or the brain.
And our inability to reach some form of full compromise or consensus is a perfect proof of what he said again, is that there is no absolute truth. So the truth is your truth, my truth, his truth, her truth, but there is no absolute truth.
In fact, actually, I would like to add something here also. Sometimes he went a little bit far and said that what we see or feel could be our own assumption as well. So what we can see as a nice garden could be our own assumption, but it might not be the same garden as you see it, or might not exist at all, actually. So that's what he even said about that.
Absolutely. Going back again to movies and,
yes.
and fictional movies, again, to show how much ahead of his time he was.
Yes.
This resonates very much with The Matrix and Avatar.
Yes.
So
yes.
the Avatar movie, The Matrix. So so like in The Matrix or in the Avatar, you are just an avatar of someone who's not here in this world, or you're sort of an incarnate of someone who's not, which again resonates with some theological beliefs that we
yes.
can touch upon later on. But he was saying it's the idea: are we in the world, or is the world in us? So
yes, that's the idea of Matrix as well, exactly as you said.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yes. And the idea of inception.
Absolutely.
That it could be a world inside the world inside the world. You don't know which one is the real one, actually, at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. And he had a very peculiar and rather radical view of the creator that we can touch upon as well. So I'll just ask for your permission to share with our viewers a short report about the most important ideas of René Descartes. And as usual, again, this is a very, very concise summary of his ideas. It's impossible to contain the ideas of René Descartes or any of the great philosophers in just a 5 minutes report.
But we need years for that.
Absolutely. These are the basics.
Right.
So, dear viewers, we'll stop with the report and we'll come back. René Descartes was a French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist who lived in the 16th and 17th centuries. Descartes believed that the mind and its thoughts were not part of the body or even the physical world, although he did believe it communicated with the body through the brain. This interaction between the mind, which is a non-physical thing, and the body, which is a physical thing, is known as the Cartesian dualism. Proof of one's existence is not to be found in the three-dimensional world, by tapping on one's head, for example, but in the very fact that one is pondering, that existence saying cogito ergo sum, or I think, therefore I am. Descartes mistrusted the information received through the senses. He did believe that certain knowledge can be acquired by other means, arguing that the strict application of reason to all problems is the only way to achieve certainty in science. Descartes argues that if all problems are reduced to their least sense-dependent and most abstract elements, then objective reason can be put to work to solve the problem. Descartes suggests that we may be under the control of an all-powerful being bent on deceiving us. In that case, we might not have a body at all, but merely a brain fed with information and illusions from the all-powerful being. Descartes asserts that a human would still be a human, without hands or hair or even a face. He also asserts that other things that are not human may have hair, hands, or faces, but a human would not be a human without reason, and that only humans possess the ability to reason. Descartes firmly believed that reason is a native gift of humans, and that true knowledge can be directly gleaned not from books, but only through the methodical application of reason. Dear viewers, after watching this, again, very concise report about the most important ideas of René Descartes, so let's delve deeper now with our guest. So, Ahmad, like in the report, it shed some light on the most important ideas of René Descartes. He insisted on the fact that the mind is what makes us humans, because all other creatures, whether like, reptiles, insects, or mammals, or Homo sapiens, all forms of creatures, they have the five senses, or they have the basic instincts. They might have faces and so on, and even a brain. But the human mind, which is the very extra special part of the human brain, is as a unique thing for humanity. We maybe talked about this before, but he also tackled the idea about the creator. And in his mind, he was saying that he sees the creator as a supreme being. So he did not deny the existence of a creator. He did not deny the existence of a first cause or a God. But he said that this creator is deceiving us, or has the intention of deceiving us. How do you understand this saying by René Descartes? Like if you try to sort of enter his mind, what can you see when he said this phrase?
That's very interesting, actually, because in fact, what Descartes mentioned about the deceit of the creator goes very good or very well in line with his idea about the reality and also the free of will. So Descartes, first of all, Descartes was one of the founders of the ideas of the free will or the freedom of choice. And this is a different, again, one of Descartes' various and broad philosophies and ideas about human mind, that the human mind, one of the characteristics and the features of the human mind, the freedom of will and the freedom of choice, which in a way contradict with the theological thought that we all the followers of theological beliefs, that everything was planned by the creator, by the supreme power, and then we have no escape from the plan or the route he made it for us. So no matter what we do, we follow this route until life ends, or the death, of course, of the human being. But according to Descartes, no, we have the freedom of choice through this journey of what we call it life, and we can change the direction of this journey. In other words, we should not also be punished because of something that we chose to do or out of free will. Or in other words, on other arguments, on the other side, if the creator has planned this whole journey from the beginning, then why he would give us the chance or would give us the option of choice and then punish us on that choice if it doesn't suit the plan he made at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So it's actually very complicated and interacting relationship.
Okay.
And then based on, actually, well, I will borrow some idea from you as well. When you discuss the movie and how it reflects the philosophies of the world, I would like to share also the idea of the movie, the Adjustment Bureau. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Someone decided that he will change the course of the creator. So, and the creator sent behind him a team of like inspectors thing, or detectives, whatever, enforcement power, to put him on the track that the creator decided for him. However, he decided to, and used all the means to fight this route, which made him succeed at the end, and he made even a better ending at the end than the one that was decided for him. So back to Descartes, yes, Descartes was right about his argument that the creator deceived us by setting a plan beyond our will. Mm-hmm. So as if the creator chose for us this plan, or he drew the line or the route or the road map for our life and existence, didn't give us the will to choose. However, being human beings, being with minds, and the mind is the origin of all the ideas and all the behaviors and choices, has the freedom of choice.
So do you think he was objecting to the ideas of like fate and destiny? So, or that, the idea that everything was preordained, or like it was
fate,
by the creator?
But because fate and destiny also would collide with the idea of the creator's major plan. Mm-hmm. Because, the fate could be someone's choices, based on someone's choice as well. So you chose to join this job, which will end up in something different, but you had the choice to choose another one before. So we are going into this loop.
Yes, absolutely, and
which is an interesting one, by the way. It's a very interesting loop, actually. And I'm trying to also to.
It's a spiral, like
Yes, and also I'm trying to actually to tickle your mind as well, to give me your opinion about what I'm saying, because I know that sometimes you come up with things that's very striking and very interesting for our audience to listen.
It's really intriguing, this topic, and it touches, I believe, each and every one of us here. So
yes.
So again, like he's talking about, but again, fate and destiny, again, according to classic belief, is you have the right to choose the means, but not the ends. So, like, if it was ordained that you are to die on this day, this hour, this second, no matter what you do. So if you got hit by a motorbike, this was the original reason of death. Even if you were sitting on your couch the same day, you will still die because it is decided that you are going to die. And
That
no matter what you do, you cannot change fate. You cannot change destiny.
I would rather this, by personal opinion, this I disagree with this assumption of the destiny because destiny could change based on our choices. So if I have the will to choose and I have the freedom to choose, then definitely this will lead to the change of the destination or the destiny. And again, we always try here to go back to movies because movies actually it's a mirror for human thoughts and minds and ideas, which is a good. I mean, I'm talking about the good quality movies and ideas that we can discuss, like the movie called Sliding Doors, where the actress with Paltrow, the movie says that she has two choices. She had two choices: to go to the elevator or not to go to the elevator at that moment. Would change. So the movie goes parallel. One assumption that she chose to go to the elevator, and one assumption is she waited and didn't and missed it. And both incidents led to different lives completely. So here, the word destiny actually does not exist. It's our choice that created that route and led us to that destiny.
Which is again for this second, or like I think it just can go forever really. A perfect proof of what this man was saying, that there is no absolute truth, because again, on the other hand, if we look at a movie like The Time Machine,
yes,
the 21st century version of it, not the 20th century version of it, but for the 21st century version of The Time Machine, like the main character, our hero, he tries to change destiny. The girl that he loved died on a specific day at a specific time. And each time he returns back, he uses the time machine to return back to the same time, and he tries to change the circumstances, but she still dies.
yes.
So it's still, again, which shows how great this man was, because all of the ideas that he talked about are still very, very hot until today. They haven't.
Absolutely, but still debatable, Muhammad, as well, because we are sitting together and we are debating.
Absolutely.
We are against
Absolutely.
some of them and we are for some of them. So back and forth. And again, yes, this time machine idea, the modern one, totally in line with the destiny, and you cannot change destiny no matter what you do. And this idea actually was handled in many movies as well.
Absolutely.
People tried to go back and change things, but they couldn't do it because it is destiny.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We will break this actually concept to two different schools. One school would say, yes, destiny is inevitable. You have to reach it as it was set for you. The other one says, no, we change destiny based on our choices and our freedom of choice.
And here comes the very imperative question, I think, is that one might think, or some people might argue, that the real, outstanding piece of evidence that we have really moved on and that we've really, left the Middle Ages is when we all apply the ideas of René Descartes, when we all, believe that there's no absolute truth. And today, the world is at a crossroads, really. Like it's at a fork. You feel that there is a fork, a road fork here, and it's going to two directions. So there is the classic view that no, there are specific truth and we should not discuss them. And this is what faith is made from, like it's not everything should be processed or computed by our mind. And then there's the other one, which says, no, everything should be tested. So I don't know, like I personally tend to think that we haven't left the Middle Ages yet. To my understanding, I think we are still in the Middle Ages because, we have the classic era and then the Middle Ages. And yeah, we use gadgets. I would say modern gadgets, toys. I wouldn't call them more than this really. So screens, phones, airplanes, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, our mind is still trapped within the medieval period. I don't think we have really reached that. Something like the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, and so on, maybe reached some of the intelligentsia, some of the supreme levels of society and so on. People are so much into it, but the elite, the select few, but it did not really reach the absolute majority of humanity, which still lives in the medieval ideas, because they are unable to comprehend what this man was saying.
Well, it's actually this time our discussion together is very ironic and very intriguing. You mentioned something I was thinking about as well, about Descartes. And if we go back a little bit to Descartes' times, it was the 16th and 17th century. It was the beginning of the Renaissance, as you said, and the eruption of many thoughts and philosophies, not in philosophy only, in art, in poetry, in literature, in music even. Everything was changing, but everything was leading to a modern world that those intelligentsia at that time, or those the la crème de la crème, thought about to create a different world, or to take the world to a stage where it's based on happiness, and to create reasons for happiness. And that's what it's about, actually. So what would create happiness, and what are the reasons for happiness? And by the way, just before I continue, this will take us back again in the future. Let's go back to future. Karl Marx did the same thing. His theme was happiness. He wanted to ensure that the human beings are happy through means of happiness, or the reason for happiness. So Descartes also, he was part of the many at that time who were talking about liberty, about freedom of choice, about separation of church from the state. At that time, talking about constitutional governments and laws made for the human beings. They were talking at that time also about the acceptance of other. In total, these are very progressive ideas. That was 500, 600, 500 or 400 years ago. Imagine, Muhammad, we are still talking about these things today, and we were trying to deliver this message to the majority of the world.
Yeah, this is very ironic indeed, because, if we take the classic interpretation of history, René Descartes lived at the end of the Renaissance. The Renaissance sort of ended in the 17th century, started in the 14th century. But again, we had the
Enlightenment era.
Absolutely. During the Renaissance, you had a lot of innovations in art and science and so on. But there was sort of some form of marriage as well with the classic theology. Of course, classic theology received a very strong blow in the 16th century, and in sort of in Central Europe and so on and so forth. But again, it managed to survive in one way or in another. And you know, even if we move to the Middle East, for example, one of the very prominent thinkers was Taha Hussein, and he was, an outstanding thinker, and he was, physically challenged. But despite all of his difficulties, he managed to be one of the most prominent thinkers of all time. And, he wrote a very controversial book. And this book was talking about the pre-Islamic era, and specifically the poetry and poems and so on. And he used, because he was like, he received his PhD from France.
Yes.
And he was really affected very much by René Descartes and his Cartesian doubt and so on. So he applied the Cartesian doubt in his book. And the book went well, except for one phrase that created a lot of commotion, really, which he said that although the Bible and the Quran tell us that Abraham existed, we cannot take this as a valid, valuable historical evidence. To make sure that Abraham really existed, and he was here talking about Abraham. So there's consensus between the three, and we even call them the Abrahamic religions, about Abraham. They might have some differences regarding other prophets or whatnot, but they would all agree about Abraham. So he was discussing the patriarch of them all, and he said that there is no real evidence until we really discuss it. And then later on again, in moving to the West, we have a very prominent scientist and I would say philosopher and thinker, like we have also Sigmund Freud, and he wrote Moses and Monotheism.
Monotheism, yes, about
and
also
exactly, where he really refutes the idea of the Exodus altogether, and he argues that Moses was not a Hebrew. He was not a one of the sons of Jacob. He did not belong to this line. He was actually just
man from this land.
Exactly. There was a descendant pharaoh who was Akhenaten, and he was one of his disciples.
Yes.
As simple as that.
Actually, the theory goes even further than this and says, some theories says, and we have lots of thinkers and scientists wrote about it, that even Moses was Akhenaten himself, based on the resemblance of the story and the history of Akhenaten and the history of Moses according to the Genesis. So both together, they go line by line in events, actually, except that there is no time frame or any indication of dates. That's all. However, they go line by line exactly as they are.
And yeah, like was it Moses? Was it Enoch? Was it whom? Like who was really Akhenaten? But again, today we still have the argument since Charles Darwin, because there's a huge discrepancy between the scientists and researchers. They did a lot of excavations and whatnot, and they discovered a lot of corpses and mummies and things like that go back, and they used carbon dating. So they used all sorts of modern,
We can determine the age
exactly.
of these findings. Yes.
and they found some of them to be, a couple of centuries old, and others to be a couple of millennia old, and some of them even to be over a million years old. But according to the Abrahamic religions, if we just use the date, there might be an argument here and there. Might be a margin of error, but we're talking somewhere between 6,000 to 10,000 years, no more than that. If we talk about when was Adam, and other people might say 20,000 years, but no more than that. We're not talking about millions of years, but at the same time, Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and the paintings and the very primitive drawings and primitive instruments, but
in the caves, yes,
in the caves, and they are primitive to us humans, but apes today cannot design, like modern apes today cannot design such instruments or do such paintings. So it was definitely some kind of a supreme being that lived over there. And still, again, it's a hot argument. So do you agree with me that we haven't reached this man yet? We haven't reached René Descartes till today.
Actually, on the contrary, of course, I agree with you, but I also supported by one important fact, that because of Descartes' principles of philosophy that he established, we are using his theory of doubt. So if you are not doubting all the given ideas to us, all the given stories or the narratives that we are receiving every day about the Abrahamic religions and other things, we wouldn't be discussing this now. So that creates doubt, because we are using our freedom of will to think and see if they are real or not, or if they really existed or not. So this man, Descartes, he started he gave us the roadmap about everything, about first starting with the doubt, then you followed by the choice, freedom of choice, and then third, the most important one of them, at the top of them, is finding the reason. Because he believed also, he said that everything has a reason. Even if regardless of the way we are reaching it, but there must be a reason for everything. So now, thank you, Descartes, for this chance that you gave us to think and allowed us to dig deep in everything. And also he made us believe in one thing, that we should not take things for granted. We have to analyze, observe, discuss, and then come up with a conclusion. We might disagree on the conclusion, you and I, Muhammad, but at least we have tried, and at least we have dealt with logical and dealt with scientific factors and basis. So
yeah,
thanks for Descartes.
Absolutely. Yeah, he really has to be commended, definitely, for all his great efforts. And he was definitely affected by Plato, by Aristotle.
Aristotle mainly, yes, as well.
Yeah, these are again, they're the great patriarchs that affect.
Of course, yes, they're all affecting each other. Actually.
But of course, I totally agree, he was more affected by Aristotle, because Aristotle was more down to earth.
Yes.
Philosopher like Plato was, he had his utopia, he had his more idealistic ideas, and but Aristotle was very down to earth, practical. He had his discourses on politics as well, and government, etc., etc. So today we are seeing a lot of atrocities, chaos, anarchy, war, turmoil, all sorts of indignities around the world.
Yeah.
And again, really, it's, if we go back again to religious texts, a story that all Abrahamic religious texts at least would agree upon is Cain and Abel. And we still see this every day today. So really, what is the point of advancing if we don't advance on the human level, which brings us again to one of the greatest thinkers is, like James Henry Preston and the dawn of conscience.
Yes.
We still are waiting for this to happen. We're still waiting because, the ordeals we have, people are living continuously in double jeopardy. And just striving and to survive after all of these millennia. We've reached nothing really. Like there's still despotism, there's still tyranny, big fish eat small fish. So again, isn't it about time that we had more insight and a more profound analysis of the human situation as well? To have doubt about the human situation. Why are we here? Like, despite all of these philosophies, despite of all of these beliefs and revelations and whatnot, we're still killing one another, stabbing one another, like oppressing one another.
I have doubts about these doubts.
Okay.
So you remember one of our episodes together, we talked about the original sin, which actually the original sin is Cain and Abel. I would consider it that way because this was the first crime, and that showed that half the world is black and the other half is white. And this is the yin and yang again. And this is
Absolutely
the north and the south, and the bipolarity of everything. And I think that's the core of life. And,
but again, like we are not really the sons of Adam proper. We're the sons of Noah, according to, and supposedly again, Noah's Ark protected the good people. So the people who embarked the Noah's Ark with the animals, they were the good few, the very, very good few. So how about those who died then? How are they like?
Actually, as from different point of views, so whether philosophical, historical, methodological as well, and scientific, I believe that this Ark of Noah was a symbol given as a folkloric story to teach people about the benefits of obedience to the supreme creator, or to the higher power, or the goodness. But in reality, man is man, because if those few people were saved because they were good, then their children would have been good as well. Mm-hmm. How would people change themselves if they didn't see someone else change, giving them bad example? So people learn the evil from another evil person. And that's why, if we go back again to the symbolic figures, Cain and Abel as well, Cain and Abel, actually, by the way, those two symbols existed in the Egyptian mythology, as well as Seth and Osiris. And both, Osiris was the white and Seth was the black. So, and he killed him in order to be, because of jealousy, and because he thought that he's the one favored by the supreme power. So if this is all symbolic figures just made by wise people who were trying to teach us a lesson about our teacher, or give us a real view about life, how it is. It's made of bad and good.
The yin and yang, again, the yin and the yang, the black and the white, but yes, there's a black dot in the white area and there's a white dot in the black area. So
that's for hope, to give you hope as well, always. And actually to avoid the absolutism in it.
And to keep you vigilant as well.
Yes, because if there is no absolute fact in life. In universe, nothing is absolute. There is always things changing, because change is the only stable thing in life, in universe.
And until today, unfortunately, the world doesn't have the space or the capacity to really absorb Rene Descartes' ideas, because for you to have Rene Descartes' idea, that you should, you should break your shackles, your bonds, and you should have the freedom of thought without fear of prosecution.
You have to have the free of doubt, or to experience doubt, or to exercise doubt, and also to express it loudly. Because if you cannot express your doubt, then who would listen to you and help you to find the answers to those questions that we are doubting about?
Absolutely.
And how can we then choose our way by our free will? Then how can we find the reason for existence?
Absolutely.
So these three things are depending on each other. If we want us to exist really exist, then we have to doubt. After that, we have to choose the way, and then to reach the reason we want to. And this is the journey, in brief, of what Descartes wanted to tell us.
Exactly.
And that's how I see it. And whether it goes in line or parallel to the theological beliefs or against it, but it is the reality. It is the thing that we have to follow in order to try to reach the reason.
Absolutely.
And the reason is happiness, by the way.
Absolutely.
This is the reason. Yes.
Ahmad Barsoum, thank you very much for being with us tonight. It's as usual, you have these extremely profound and enlightening remarks, and so really looking forward to having you time and again.
It's always a pleasure, Muhammad, to be with you and your distinguished viewers and followers.
Thank you very much again, Ahmad. And dear viewers, if we were to recap or to come to a conclusion here, we're living in the 21st century, that is true, but we still have stereotypes, bigotry, stigma. And if you might disagree with the herd, with the majority, you're always marginalized. And so it's always my way or highway. And again, the strong would oppress the weak. And you'd always find yourself in this double jeopardy. To be who I am, and to think, I think, therefore I am, apply this, but be oppressed, be always an outcast, to live in your own, ghetto and diaspora, or just go with the flow and forget about your mind. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that yet. We're still dominated by, ideas. We're still dominated by idols, really. This is idolatry in disguise. Because as long as there are these big taboos that we cannot touch or think about, we are really worshiping idols. And it's about time that we break these idols, because I think we have seen, too much bloodshed in this world. I think we've had more than our fair share of bloodshed, of destruction, of chaos. So to end this madness, it's the time for us to give our mind and not our low animal instincts the right to rule. Thank you very much, dear viewers. Until we meet again, I hope you have a very pleasant time. Thanks for watching.